Hello and welcome to part 2 of the video series Framing a Bathroom in SketchUp Make 2017. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on the framing, specifically around the door, and creating patterns on your walls for your studs, as well as the move and push tool. So I am going to start by taking a look at the strategies for constructing a door. Every door is going to have two studs around the outside. You have your king stud that runs from the double top plate down to the sole plate, and you have the trimmer, which goes from the sole plate up to the header. Now this opening width is dependent upon which door you choose. So I went to Home Depot here. I found a generic door online to practice. It's a 30 by 80 inch door, but I'm actually not going to use 30 by 80 inch. That's the door itself. This is a pre-hung interior door, which means it's got framing around it. Nice and convenient for installing. And I'm going to scroll down, and if you look here at the rough opening height and width, it says you need 82.4375 and 32.0625 for your rough opening in that frame. So that's what I'm going to be working towards. I'm going to be putting my door frame right about here in this wall based on that bathroom image from before, a real rough SketchUp that I've got there. So moving around, I'm going to start with my rightmost stud in my door, which is known as that king stud, and that's going to run all the way. The trimmer is going to run up to the header. Again, this is my rough opening. Here we go. Let's get started. Marching over 1.5 inches, creating that king stud for us to stretch out. Okay. After that, marching over my trimmer stud, coming over there, got the trimmer drawn, and now the next tool we're going to be going over is this kind of measurement tool. It serves two purposes. You can click on either end of a line, and over down here in the bottom box it'll tell you, hey, that's 3.5 inches, it must be a 2x4. You can measure any lines you see fit. Or that should be 98 inches, which it says it is. The second function is like if you were to make a mark on a board, this ruler tool or the measuring tape will also make a mark on the line for your point to bind to, for your line tool or some other tool to bind to. And I know that I want the opening of my rough opening to be 32.0625 inches. So I'm going to grab my measurement tool. I'm going to go over 32.0625, which is 32 and a 16th, I think. So it's quite a ways over. So that gives me a spot for me to start the inside, the left trimmer board there, marching over 1.5, clicking and coming across, and then my king stud going over 1.5, coming down and across. Fantastic. So now we can kind of see what we got going on here. We got this beautiful wall set up. I think it's looking fantastic. I'm going to delete out this inside piece. It's driving me nuts. It's probably just going to come back in like 5 minutes. Now, for my door opening, if we look at this picture, you'll notice there's the sole plate isn't there. So to get rid of what we have, I'm going to use that kind of move push and just, oh no, let's not do that. Let's push down. How about that? Grab the eraser tool, and you can click on the features you wish to delete. Great. We've kind of created our floor plan here. We got it all mapped out with the perfect rough opening for that door that I so badly desire from the Home Diaper. Okay. Great. Fantastic. Okay. Now it's time for us to kind of establish our stud pattern. I'm going to be I'll be starting with this wall here. Now if I want later down the road, remember, if I want to be measuring with a measuring tape when my wall is constructed, I want to hit the center of the stud at 16 inches on my measuring tape, even after all the sheetrock is on. You got a 1/2 inch of sheetrock plus 5.5 inch 2x6 plus 1.5 inches 2x4, or really 5.5 inch plus the 1/2 inch, so 6 inches coming to right here, which means to get to the center of my stud from there, let's see, that's going to be 16 minus 6. We're going to have a whole grand 10 inches. So if you're measuring from the end of this board right here, that's going to be, I believe, since that's the 2x6, 9.25. Okay, so measuring from here over is going to end up being 9.25 inches. Now, the reason I got that 9.25 is because it's 16 to the center of the stud, but the stud is 1.5 inches, so we have to come back 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so we can go over that. If you're stuck on that, sit down and draw it out, and I'm sure it'll make sense. Okay, 1.5. Okay, so there I've got, now if I'm measuring, we're including the sheetrock that's going to be on the outside. So sheetrock from here to here, that's going to put me 16, will put me dead center of that stud, so I can hit with my sheetrock screws. Now if we measure here, we have our king stud, it's 9.5, that's okay, not the end of the world. We've got our stud pattern established over here. Okay, now that was a 2x6. If I drag over to this wall and we do something similar, it's going to be a little different. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have our 1/2 inch sheetrock out here. Okay, and we've got our 3.5 inch 2x4. So that leaves us with, it's going to be, well, it's going to be basically 2 inches more than what we had before. So before we had 9.25, now we're going to have 11.25 measuring from, or no, from here we'll have 11.25 going this direction. 0.25, enter. Okay, great. So now if I measure from here, it's going to be minus 3/4 of an inch minus that, minus, so it's going to be 1.25 inches short, which is exactly what we've got. Perfect. To the edge. So coming up, anyways, this is not, that's more, what I'm doing here is not necessarily required for a wall, but it's just a trick to make hanging things or knowing where your studs are a little bit easier later down the road when it's all covered up. Okay, so you could sit here, if studs are 16 inches on center, so after this one, you're just basically starting from here, measuring out 16 inches, drawing another one. So you could sit here, by all means, sit here and say, okay, I'm going to measure out, I'm going to put 16 inches from the left side to the left side, or you could measure from here and go 14.5 to get to the next stud. And so you could sit here and draw these a bunch of times, but it's going to get fairly monotonous and it's going to take a while. And so if you're in a hurry to draw and you want to make it accurately 16 inches on center, there is a way that can speed things up. And it's using the move option. So if you click the move tool and you click on, I think you have to highlight your features. So I'm going to come through. Holding Control allows me to select multiple objects. So you can click and select the lines you're interested in moving. I'm going to select the move tool, and when I click on this, you grab a reference point. I'm going to be using that front right. I'm going to click and drag. Now you notice it's moving it around, so if you press Control, it lets the program know you're going to be making a copy. And then I'm going to type in 16. Okay, I want to move that corner over 16 inches because these are 16 inch on the center. Fantastic. Now, while that's still there, if you type ×7, enter, it will take the, so I did an X and a 7 after pressing enter and creating. It will take that pattern and repeat that 16 inch pattern all the way across the wall. Now we don't have the same over here on this corner. It's going to be a little bit different, so it just kind of depends on your layout. But then you could come, I just did a bunch, you can come through and delete the extra features that you don't need. So there's a quick way to create a copy, or you could just go through and hand draw each of the studs. That's kind of up to you. Okay, here we go. We're going to keep going. I'm going to draw in my next stud and kind of repeat the pattern just like I did before. Let's go. All right, drawing in. Going to be measuring from this side well, I can just move copy this piece here. So Control, click, click, click. Moving around. This might be an interior wall. You could measure that distance from here as well. You know what? Let's do that for funsies. Let's go ahead and click out. I'm going to be measuring my first from this edge, so that's 16 center from the inside. So it just kind of depends on the style or where your wall is in your house, where you're going to be hanging your sheetrock and hanging stuff. If you're hanging from the inside of the bathroom, we should be measuring from here. So I'm going to go out 14.5 inches. Put a little tick mark and start my drawing. Alright, let's see here. Move copy, Control. And if you're not comfortable, if you're thinking, hey, that's too far apart, then you can put them less frequently. That's just fine. Move, or more frequently, I should say. Copy, Control, 16, enter, times 2. I think 2 will get us to the edge. You can go around and continue this pattern. And again, if you're not comfortable, if you want to add more, you're like, oh, I want my wall to be solid. Fine. Go crazy. It's your wall. You're buying the 2x4s, right? Yeah, this is interior wall, so we're not super worried about insulation or anything else that we got to be super focused on. Clicking and dragging. Now these ones, these puppies are 2x6s. And let's say this is one that will be hanging sheetrock on the outside. So I'm going to be measuring from the outside. Take my measuring tape. Let's see here. I'll be measuring out 14.5 inches to get to my next. If we want them 16 on center. Okay, good. And then draw my line. I guess I could have done the move copy option here. Okay, boom. Sweet. Clicking through. We're almost done, folks. Control, Control, Control. There we go. Move, base point, Control, and 16, enter. And let's do times 5, enter. Whoa. Got us right to the end. It's like I knew what I was doing or something. Man, that's exciting. Okay, and you could have started your pattern from the other side. Again, it just depends on the layout of the house, where you're going to be hanging stuff on the walls, where you're going to be measuring from. But we've got a pattern. These look pretty solid, and we've got, I think, a very decent layout for our bathroom. I think that's good enough for this video. I'm going to come back and we'll start raising the studs and constructing everything else in just a minute. Okay, thanks everybody.